we get going on the actual lecture, just something that came up in the break, that, with doing the Tao Te Ching, all of this, getting inspired to do calligraphy. And a lot of people have asked about what are the best ways in to learn to read and write Chinese. Well, it's critical we always remember that the highest art in China, acknowledged by absolutely everyone, nobody who has any education argues it, is calligraphy. Calligraphy is the highest of all the arts. And so we have someone who got inspired from their studying calligraphy days to bring out their brush again. And there's a lot of reasons why calligraphy is so important. The first, of course, is it means that you are reading and writing usually very cool things like the Tao Te Ching, right? Which by nature, that's kind of nice. I mean, it's great in terms of content. But in terms of a meditation and an experience, I talk about it, I don't know in what seminar, but I talk about the difference of what we call shufa, which is calligraphy today, which is literally the method of writing, the method of brushing. And that's not what it was called traditionally. Traditionally it was called shu dao, the Tao of writing, or the path of writing. Or is writing a path to the Tao? Or if you are in the Tao, suddenly you have good writing. I'm not going to say anything, but this idea of shu dao, which is the same thing as cha dao, which is the Tao of tea, which many people in the West know as chodo, right? The Japanese tea ceremony. Well, all you're saying is the Tao of tea, the way of tea. Tao is in the Tao Ka Tao, Fei Chang Tao, right? So when you are doing shu dao, the Tao of writing, when you write, you have to be what you write. And so if you are water, you are water. If you are heaven, you are heaven. If you are a chair, you're a chair. Whatever you are writing, you must be that in your body. Now that sounds kind of, the reason why I'm talking about it on film here is it sounds a little, I don't want to say new agey or airy-fairy or not very connected. But all of a sudden, with what we've managed to do as a group, is when you have that needle in today, and then I say you just have to expand. You have to do the entering practice, or you have to gather chi with the point. And it's tangible to us. It's real. We're really like, oh, it concentrates. If it's true that you can gather chi and something happens, then of course, if we can hit that level of body practice, Daoyin, internal cultivation, that now you can enter and literally in your body things shift and change and it allows something different to happen, then you can certainly be water. Your ability to be water, when you think of the word water, is much higher. Your odds are higher now than someone we pick up off the street because of this internal Daoyin cultivation we've been doing. And then you have something you're putting it into effect with. Right? We're putting it into patients, we're putting it into our partners. And so if you understand it's the same mechanism, and your practice is this calligraphy, everyday writing, your ability to shift into these states and your body has these changes is real. It's not just an abstract concept. The second thing is that within each character that has its meaning that you are, whether it's an emotion or an object or whatever it is, each stroke, there's 8 classic strokes. Yongzi Bafa, the Yong character, the character for eternal in Chinese, happens to have all the strokes. I mean, are there variations? Of course. But you've got your dot, you've got your horizontal, your drop, your hook, you've got your elephant tusks, you've got your hawk sweeping down. It's an awful character. All right? But it's in there, it contains everything you need. And so when I was learning calligraphy and doing a bad job of it, I would practice this character over and over again. I don't know if you've ever seen the Kung Fu movies where the kid's got his ponytail tied to the ceiling so he can't take a nap, and he's got to do 1,000 of these. I mean, I used to sit there and yong, 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 yon, yon. I loved it, but I just, obviously my calligraphy drawing is not nice. That's not where I put my gong fu. But each stroke is an experience. Within a character, that's an experience. Within whatever you're writing, which is an entire experience on its own. That's a lot of layers of wow. And then, in the old days, not today, your ink was made with Chinese herbs, along with the ink. And ink is an herb. You can buy it in the Chinese pharmacies, in every pharmacy in China. Ink is an herb. And then within ink, they would put in herbs. And those herbs were designed to calm the shen, cool the body, or warm the body if it was winter. So there you are, getting ready to write, you're very meditative, and then you grind, and this fragrance comes up, and you're doing this aromatherapy of what's in your ink. And then you're writing, and you're in this nice meditative state, and then you are water within the Tao, within the whatever you're... I mean, come on, that is an art of all arts. When I was going back and forth between the States in 2001 to 2004 to take care of licensing, in Colorado, I was staying up in the mountains. And we moved up to this incredible property, and an Englishman who happened to be in the States. I hired an Englishman, and he hired and helped us move to this retreat in the mountains. And he didn't know who I was, and there was just this strange guy who lives in China, is a part-time boss while he's here, flying back and forth, and you've just moved to a remote property surrounded by national forest with him, right? From my perspective, I thought that sounds like heaven, doesn't it? I mean, you're living in the, basically Rocky Mountain National Forest, right? For him, he's like, let's hope he doesn't turn out to be a psycho. So, I'm so excited. I mean, imagine you've been living in the teeny apartment in Beijing all this time, for years and years and years, and all of a sudden, like you're on break. It's like going to summer camp, and this was a kids camp. The place was an actual kids camp that we'd taken over. So you've got this meadow at 9,000 feet, and it's beautiful, and the Rockies, and you're there, and you've got my kind of chi personality, and then you give me that. First thing I did is set up a big calligraphy table, and I had the calligraphy going, and this is what I wrote, actually, which is what's so funny about it. First phrase is the Tao Te Ching, and I'm going, and it's buzzing, and I'm flying, I'm like, ha-ha! Woo-hoo! Oh! And he hears, this is a big building, right? He hears all these noises. So he comes, and this person who doesn't know me, he's known me for 3 days, right? He's alone in the mountains. He opens the door. He says, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Yes!" And there's been a few moments in my life where I've realized what I look like. I mean, I don't know what I look like. I don't care what I look like. I lived in China with no mirrors, no nothing for so many years that it doesn't occur to me what you see. I don't even, it doesn't matter what you see of me over here. And there was a moment in life where you pause and you realize that you see yourself through somebody else's eyes. And I'm surprised he did not run. I mean, you got to bring this perspective. Not only is the guy crazy, but he's got like a brush in his hand, like he's doing calligraphy, and he's like, woo! Yeah! Whoa! Yeah! I mean, literally. Calligraphy, most powerful of the arts. Where's that got to do with us? Aside from being like, wow, the brush. The brush is held many ways through time, but the classic way is 2 fingers on the outside, 2 fingers on the inside, and the thumb. And then this way you're able to use your pinky and ring finger to push. And you're able to use your index and middle finger to pull. And then you're able to use the rotation of everything to move it in there, as well as spin the brush. So your ability to, once you master this with the thumb, is you have a dexterity of this brush that you can push and rotate and move and spin multiple things all at once. Starting to sound familiar, right? We're doing multiple things all at once to get a great reaction. And so when you dip your brush and you get it prepared, you want it to finish, you want to start it within a beautiful shape. It looks like that nice calligraphy brush shape. Okay? And then you commit to the paper. And Wang Xizhi, the most famous calligrapher who talked about it, said that the strength in your hand must be that it's the same as if you took a sword and you stuck it 3 feet into the sand, and then you pushed, and you wrote your calligraphy like that. Now, if you don't have gongfu, and you take that brush, and you put it on the paper, and you go, into the sand, you blotch the paper, the hair's all spread all over the place, and you probably put a hole in it. And then the ink runs. It's really annoying. The ink goes, you write this really beautiful character, and then you watch the ink start to go out to the sides, and you're like, no, no! You get a piece of paper, you're like, blot it out, and blot it out. In any case, that's what I do. So you have to have that kind of strength in there, which means your whole body has to be engaged. And you have to be engaged with full power, and yet it has to be so gentle you don't rip the paper. All right, ha! How's that for a level of gongfu, right? And then on top of that, so you start with your nice shape, you commit, and you shift it so that the hairs open for a wider stroke, and then you spin it with your fingers so the hair's round, so it gets thinner, right? And then you lift a little bit, so all of a sudden it comes up, and then you push, so it takes a shoulder shape. And then you open it so all the hairs open evenly and pull strong, and then you do all this so you're rotating the hairs of your brush the whole time, right? And then when you finish, you should be able to hold up your brush, and it's back to the shape it was when you started. Not me. I'm good shape. I'm really good at getting the brush ready. It's like, yeah, good brush. I go in, I go, and then it's, so I go back, I make it ready again, and so I have to refix my brush every single time, right? So, if you think about, one of the things I've said is people say, you know, how can you do this year after year or so many repetitions? And I tell them, I don't do 1,000 repetitions. I just do 1 repetition. 1,000 times. But each time it's the first one. It's like, oh, what am I doing? I'm paying attention to this. Oh, what am I doing? I'm paying attention to this. And 1,000 times just goes by. But I don't go, okay, this is 78, 79, 80. I mean, goodness, who could, I mean, that's not me. Obviously, my personality is not suited to a repetitive thing. But I can do one thing a whole lot of times, right? Because each time I'm completely focused on what do I want to do. And so when you write like that and you're paying attention to the brush and you're all of these things, hours go by. Huge amounts of things become made. And you would have no idea time went by. Now there's something really, 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 really cool about this, which is that when you're doing it at that level, there's life in the paper. Literally. The way you judge whether calligraphy is good or bad is it's hola or sa. It's alive or it's dead. Right? And it's awful because if you don't know what you're looking for, it looks beautiful, and then like some Chinese guy comes by and says, "Ah, it sucks," and they walk off, and you're like, "But that's so nice." And that's because they saw that that was dead. There was no life in it. It's just ink on paper. Pretty, not pretty. And that's what I love about the Chinese arts is they don't care whether it looks pretty. That's not what they're looking at. The people who know what they're looking at. They're looking about whether there's gongfu and life in it. Right? And that's what they see. You know, it's kind of like the old guy who looks for the horses. I told the horse story this trip, right? Right. He's not looking at the horse as tall, as big, good teeth, wide feet. He's looking at the spirit of the horse. They're looking at the spirit of that character. And that's what they judge. You know, whether it's got warts or whether it's got this or whether it's got that is not important. It's that it's got that vitality to it. So that being said, obviously a part of you is in that paper. And therefore, the people who came from a lot of calligraphers and places that were doing calligraphy had a special urn for burning. And you never let your calligraphy that wasn't going to be kept just be let loose somewhere and then people would come and take it or whatever. You would burn it. Now talk about all that effort. And you do all of that. And then the ultimate Zen non-attachment is when it's all done, you burn it. Unless it's something you're keeping. Which I will finish with this story on calligraphy and gongfu, which is Wang Shizhi, the calligrapher I was just talking about. So of course he has this incredible calligraphy, he's very, very famous, and he's got a son who does calligraphy with him, follows the father's tradition, but he's not his father. It's important to understand. Anyone ever tries to sell you that they're good because they come from a family lineage? This requires gongfu. It doesn't matter who your dad or your grandpa is, if you don't put the time in, you can't do it. And if on top of that time, if there isn't that ingrained love and talent, you won't be gifted at it just because your father's gifted at it. Why would that at all pass on to you? Right? It doesn't work that way. Please don't ever fall for, well, you know, I have a family tradition so I know more than other people. Whoever puts in the work knows it, right? Just, any case. So, his son, fine calligraphy, but just not all his dad. I mean, it's not even in the same ballpark. Father passes on, and his son, who's supposed to be carrying on the tradition, I mean, you know, emperors want his calligraphy, everything else like that. He just sweats over it. And he studies his father's works, and he practices that. And, you know, in those days you had to get water and carry it. So you had these huge ceramic urns for water, right? And he'd line them up, and you take water. And to go through, you know, calligraphy doesn't require a lot of water, but you need it. But to go through 3 large urns of water is a huge amount of writing. I mean, it's a ton of writing. So he's got his 3 urns, and he's writing, and he's trying to get it, and he's going, and the ghost of his father is just watching him like, oh, he's trying so hard. And finally the son, he gets there, and he's about to finish, and he gives up, and he falls asleep on the table. And his father is watching and says, wow, he's trying so hard. I should help him. So the ghost of his father comes, takes the brush, and finishes the last dot, this part right here, right? Just puts it in. Son's asleep. Next morning, his mom comes in and says, huh, really? 3 urns of water and only the dot looks like your dad's? Gotta love a Chinese story. Smack!